A man named Ethan Burke wakes up by the river with a broken face and does not understand what happened. When he returns home, he remembers the account of the accident in the psychologist's office. Ethan Burke cannot tell his wife what happened, for it is classified information. He feels responsible for the explosions at Easter. The psychologist assures him that it is the fault of those who authorized it, and the man was only on a mission. Ethan Burke is having hallucinations. The man asserts that he only sees nightmares in his dreams. Having already reached the town, people stare in amazement at the waddling man. Ethan enters a cafe and asks the waitress where he is. It turns out he's in Wayward Pines, Idaho. After what the woman says, Ethan loses consciousness. The man wakes up in a hospital, where the nurse reports that the man has a severe concussion and several broken ribs. However, this is normal for such a car accident, the woman says. In the man's mind, memories from the recent past arise where he is talking to an agent in the car. Ethan searches for the agents, including Kate Hewson, his ex-girlfriend and partner. This is the task Ethan Burke has been assigned by his supervisor. During this conversation, the men are involved in a car accident. Ethan Burke asks Nurse Pan how his agent friend is feeling. The woman reports that unfortunately, the other man did not survive. Ethan wants to call his wife as soon as possible, but his things are nowhere to be found. Secret Service headquarters in Seattle, Washington. Adam Hassler and his partner were not notified of the accident until 2 days after it happened. It was very difficult to recognize anything in the remains of the car, for everything had been burning for a long time. Adam Hassler can't understand how Burke managed to survive and have only minor injuries. Burke has a teenage son and wife who, upon learning of the accident, began to worry about him. The only thing that made them at least somewhat happy was that he could not be found, meaning he might be alive. At the time, Burke seems a strange hospital, since no other patients are being seen. There is no way they can bring him his personal belongings, and Nurse Pan is also very strange. Back in town, everything seems very strange and unusual. Already in the bar, he manages to find a telephone to call his family. His personal belongings are at the sheriff's office and it is closed. Burke informs his family of his location. There he tells the bartender that he works for the Secret Service and is here in search of his missing colleagues. The man has lost his wallet and knows no one in town, so the woman offers to let him stay with her. Burke, however, does not accept the offer. He manages to negotiate at the hotel that he will pay in the morning. A guy working at the hotel wakes Burke up and asks him to pay for the room. Burke has nowhere to stay, so he decides to go back to the stranger at the bar after all. Arriving at the address left on the check, the man sees an old abandoned house. Deciding to go in, Burke sees the mutilated corpse of the agent he is looking for. The man goes straight to the sheriff's house. The sheriff does not have Burke's belongings. After telling the man the story of his arrival, the sheriff writes down all the details. He clearly distrusts and taunts Burke. The man tries to contact both family and work. It's as if his family doesn't get messages from him, and at work he can't talk to Agent Adam Hassler. Burke returns to the bar in search of the stranger who gave him the address, but the owner of the establishment does not know women who match Burke's description, because only 2 men work in the bar. The man begins to consider himself weak-minded because he sees incomprehensible things. In a fit of rage and wanting to get out of town, Burke almost beats the bar owner. The other one hits Burke hard on the head to defend himself. On the eve of his departure, the man wakes up confined to a hospital bed. He is immediately approached by Jenkins, a psychiatrist. Burke has a hemorrhage in his brain, which is the cause of a dissipative impairment of memory and consciousness, the doctor notes. Burke believes he is hallucinating, but believes the problem is in this obscure town. Dr. Jenkins must perform surgery on Burke's brain to repair the bleeding and hematoma. The man becomes hysterical, for he does not want any treatment. His aggressive behavior is noted by the nurse, who injects him with an unknown drug. Already in front of the operating room, Burke sees Beverly Brown. The agents take a long time looking for a way out of the hospital and run through the corridors. The man notices liquid on the floor and opens the first door. Burke forces the girl to hide behind them. The guy himself hides behind another door and breaks a mirror on the wall, a piece of which he can defend himself with. A nurse appears at the entrance offering a contract, the gift of anesthesia for the surgery, since he is her favorite patient. She really scares Burke. The nurse threatens Burke and says he must come out to her immediately. If he doesn't, the surgery will be hard and he won't even be able to move afterwards. She threatens that the procedure will take hours and he will be unconscious, feeling every second of the agony. Suddenly, Burke rushes at her from the door opposite and knocks her to the floor. Hearing the fall, Beverly Brown runs out of the room, picks the boy up, and goes with him. Finally, a way out is found, but the woman is agitated, for Burke must be hidden quickly before he loses consciousness. A thunderstorm begins, the man cannot walk at all, His legs are failing. He manages to hide in an abandoned building. Burke wonders about his partner's fate and who the stranger who helps him is. The first agent died because he tried to escape. Beverly herself thinks it's the year 2000. She came to Wayward Pines in 1999 to install a program for school computers. Then her story became exactly the same as Burke's: an incomprehensible car accident, head trauma, and memory loss. Theresa Burke meets with Burke's co-worker, hoping to find out the whereabouts of her husband. The supervisor tells her that Burke's belongings were not found at the accident scene. Theresa Burke thinks he is cheating on her with ex-girlfriend Kate Hewson. The man regains consciousness and returns to town. In the crowd of locals, the agent notices a hallucination of Kate Hewson. Memories of her arise in his mind. The man pursues the woman. His husband opens the door for him and agrees to call Kate Hewson. The woman assures him that she does not know who Burke is. In private, the woman cannot tell everything. She has lived in Wayward Pines for 12 years and knows that all human footsteps are watched and listened to. That's impossible because Burke dated the woman only 5 weeks ago. The woman with no explanation just walks away. Burke steals a car and runs away, but it is as if he is driving around in circles. At this time, Adam Hassler meets with the doctor, who talks about his case. The sheriff catches up with Burke and considers him the first suspect in the agent's death. A passerby tells Burke the first rule of this town: the main thing is not to run away. The man returns to the house where he found his colleague's body earlier. It remains there. The hotel guy informs the sheriff of Burke's disappearance, and the commissioner finds the man over the agent's corpse. Burke doesn't understand why the body is still in the abandoned building. Burke returns to the hotel at the sheriff's direction and on the way stops by the bar where Beverly Brown works. They start dancing to be close to each other. They have to speak very quietly because everyone is listening. Beverly Brown was supposed to run with the dead agent. For more information, they agree with Burke to meet at the mausoleum later. The man keeps trying to contact his colleagues. When he calls, he realizes they are fake people and they are lying to him. In the meantime, Burke's family is worried and waiting for a message from the man. They are sure that the man is with his mistress. Theresa Burke calls on the phone at work and asks her boss to submit a photo to television. On the offer, the man replies that the missing Burke is out with his mistress. Currently at work, Kate Hewson, Burke tells everything she already knows and wonders what happened to the agents. The woman can't say anything openly, only sort of casually tells her about the agent's widow. On the wall in the store, the Wayward Pines rules are hung up. No running away, no discussing past and previous lives. A person finds the house described by Kate Hewson and the agent's entire family. She reveals that she saw her husband commit suicide. Burke returns to the sheriff's office. The latter already knows where the man went. The sheriff assures him to stay away from the corpse in the morgue, but Burke goes there right away. The agent's body is dismembered, and the only useful thing is the notebook he finds. At the hospital, Burke meets psychiatrist Jenkins, but the man thinks he has seen his family on gurneys. The doctor speaks only of hallucinations, trauma, and the need for surgery. Burke escapes from the hospital again and goes to see the girl. She tells him about the chip and helps him remove the device. Burke tells the woman about misguided thoughts about the times they live in and the news of society. While walking through the cemetery, a man notices the lack of names and dates on the tombstones. Beverly Brown had an operation after which she temporarily lost her memory, and everyone assured her that she had always lived in Wayward Pines. The memory came back and the woman understood it was a new life, but tried to keep her head down until the agent showed up. The woman says Bill was killed by the sheriff in front of the whole town. Walking around town, they meet a mistress with her husband. They invite the couple to dinner. Theresa Burke decides to go in search of her husband, and her son wants to go with her. Already at the hotel, Burke examines the chip and the agent's found notebook in detail. Nurse Pam and her husband's secretary notice the favor of a couple of agents. Already in the evening, they go to a planned dinner. Burke has a plan. First, the man will go looking for cameras in the house, and when he returns, the woman will leave, leaving her chip with the neighbors. Dinner is over, and Burke and Beverly Brown go to the cemetery where the agent's backpack is hidden. Looking for directions, they plan to use Bill's map. The conversation between the pair is strained and unnatural, but the plan must be followed. Beverly Brown blabs about her daughter, which puts her in a panic, and she runs away. Kate Hewson and her husband realize that the couple intended to run away. As soon as they stepped outside, phones rang in all the houses and everyone ran out looking for the fugitives. Beverly Brown was captured by the Bellingers. Burke is still being chased. The girl was publicly killed by the sheriff in the square to the screams of the residents, though everyone genuinely feels sorry for the woman. At this time, the Burke family arrives in Idaho.